On the US-Mexico border, under the scorching sun of northern Mexico, police began digging into the ground. They expected drugs, weapons, maybe bodies dumped by smugglers. Instead, they uncovered something far more disturbing: human remains, buried carefully, surrounded by candles, animal bones, and ritual objects. This wasn't a cartel execution, this was a sacrifice. And the people responsible didn't believe they were criminals. They believed they were protected. Protected by blood. Protected by ritual. Protected by forces they claimed were stronger than the law. This is the true story of the Narcosatanists, a real-life cult that blended drug trafficking, occult belief, and ritual murder, and believed killing people made them invincible. Welcome to Criminal Records, where we document real crimes, hidden motives, and the darkest truths behind ordinary faces. This case is not exaggerated, not sensationalized. Every detail is real. To understand this story, you need to understand Matamoros, a border city across from Brownsville, Texas. By the late 1980s, Matamoros was a gateway. Drugs flowed north, money flowed south. Violence existed, but it was normalized. Shootings, disappearances, smugglers vanishing overnight. Even in a city used to crime, something darker was forming. Not chaos, organization, a belief system that justified murder. His name was Adolfo de Jesus Constanzo. Born in Miami, raised between cultures, he was charming, well-spoken, clean-cut. People trusted him. But Adolfo believed he was chosen. From a young age, he studied occult traditions, particularly Palo Mayami, a belief system rooted in spiritual power, objects, and sacrifice. But Adolfo twisted it. He added Catholic symbols, satanic imagery, and his own delusions of grandeur. He claimed spirits spoke through him, that he could see the future, that he could protect people from billets. And slowly, people began to listen. Cults don't start with murder, they start with ounces. Adolfo offered certainty in a violent world, protection, luck, success. Followers didn't feel manipulated, they felt chosen. He surrounded himself with loyal believers, especially those involved in crime. People who wanted power without consequences. And Adolfo promised exactly that. The rituals began small. Animals were sacrificed, blood collected, prayers whispered. Followers were told, "This keeps us safe." And when drug shipments succeeded, belief hardened. Failures were explained away. Success was credited to blood. This is how belief becomes dangerous, when it seems to work. Eventually, Adolfo declared a terrifying truth. Animal blood wasn't strong enough anymore. Human sacrifice was required. Victims were chosen strategically. Rivals, enemies, people no one would miss. They were abducted, killed during ritual, buried at a ranch outside the city. Each death reinforced the belief they were untouchable. The ranch sat quietly outside Matamoros. From the outside, it looked ordinary, but beneath the soil was a mass grave. This was the cult's sacred ground, a place of ceremonies, a place of death, and it remained hidden until one disappearance changed everything. In March 1989, Mark Kilroy, a 21-year-old American college student, crossed into Mexico during spring break. He never returned. Unlike previous victims, Mark was noticed. His disappearance triggered pressure from US authorities, and for the first time, the cult was exposed. Police followed leads to the ranch. What they uncovered horrified them. Bodies, human remains, ritual tools soaked in blood. Investigators realized this wasn't just trafficking, it was ritualized murder. Mexico and the United States watched in disbelief. As cult members were arrested, Adolfo fled to Mexico City. Even then, he believed he was protected. When police surrounded his apartment, Adolfo didn't surrender. He ordered a follower to kill him. Even in death, he refused to accept reality. Survivors confessed. Authorities suspected dozens of murders. The case shattered assumptions about crime. This wasn't greed, it wasn't desperation. It was belief taken to its extreme. The Narcosatanists didn't hide in caves. They lived normal lives. Their danger wasn't chaos, it was conviction. They believed murder was necessary. That belief made them unstoppable. Before we reach the end of this story, there's something crucial we need to understand. Adolfo Constanzo did not act alone. The Narcosatanists were not one man's madness. They were a group of followers, men and women who made conscious choices, people who crossed lines they could never return from. Some were drug traffickers, some were friends, some were romantically involved with Adolfo. None of them started as killers, but started as believers. Belief is what made them dangerous. At first, followers were tested in small ways. They were asked to participate in rituals, to watch, to stay silent. Then, they were asked to help, to hold candles, to dig holes, to clean blood. Each step removed another layer of resistance. This is how moral collapse works, not all at once, but slowly. Adolfo convinced them that hesitation was weakness, that doubt invited death. He told them, if you are afraid, the spirits will punish you. Fear became obedience, and obedience became loyalty. Some followers later admitted they were terrified of Adolfo, not because he threatened them, but because they believed his power was real. Adolfo Constanzo didn't convince his followers that killing was evil. He convinced them it was necessary. Necessary for survival, necessary for success, necessary to stay alive. Once murder becomes justified, there is no limit. And that's what this case reveals. What makes this story even more unsettling is how ordinary the people involved appeared. They weren't hiding underground. They weren't isolated from society. They lived among everyone else. They crossed borders. They held conversations. They blended in. Nothing about them screamed cult. And that's the point. Evil does not always announce itself. Sometimes it whispers. Sometimes it offers answers. The Narcosatanists also force us to confront an uncomfortable truth. That belief, when combined with power, can override morality. History has shown this again and again. People are capable of extraordinary cruelty when they believe they are justified, when they believe they are chosen, when they believe they are protected. Even after arrests, even after trials, even after life sentences, the damage didn't end. Families were destroyed, communities were shaken, trust was broken, and the victims, many of whom were never identified, were reduced to ritual objects in someone else's belief system. They deserve to be remembered, not as sacrifices, but as people. This case also changed how authorities viewed organized crime. It proved that cartels didn't just rely on money and fear, they could use faith. They could manipulate belief, and that made them harder to fight. Because you can arrest a criminal, but how do you arrest an idea? The Narcosatanists are a reminder that the most dangerous weapon is not a gun, but conviction. Conviction that removes doubt. Conviction that silences conscience. Conviction that turns murder into duty. This wasn't ancient history. This wasn't mythology. This happened in the modern world, in a place with laws, borders, police, and that's what makes it unforgettable. This was the Narcosatanists, a real-life cult where belief became a license to kill.